Hi, it's Reggie. Welcome back to Moonlight Moments. There's a kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, the kind that sits behind your eyes even after a full night's rest. The kind you try to explain away with, I'm just busy, or it's just a season. But deep down, you know. You know you've been running on something thinner than energy. You know you've been borrowing from yourself. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about someone who kept the world moving. Someone who gave away seconds and minutes and hours until there was almost nothing left for themselves. This is a story about quiet collapse, about the kind of burnout that doesn't scream. It just slowly dims. So take a breath and let's begin. The tower where time is kept does not cast a shadow. It stands suspended in a sky that never fully darkens and never fully dawns, built from glass that remembers every second it has ever reflected. The walls shimmer with faint constellations, and the floor hums softly like a held breath. At the center of the tower hangs a great loom of light, threads of silver and gold stretching endlessly in every direction. Each thread carries a life. Each pulse is a heartbeat somewhere in the world below, and moving carefully between them is the timekeeper. They were formed from the first measured moment, the first division between before and after. Their hands are steady, luminous at fingertips. When someone pleads for more time, the threads quiver, and the timekeeper feels it instantly. A mother whispering for one more lullaby, a student begging for one more hour before sunrise, a lover wishing the night would not end. The timekeeper listens. They always listen. With a gentle motion, they lengthen the thread here, soften a ticking clock there. They stretch sunsets so apologies can be finished. They slow rain so crops can be gathered. They widen minutes so grief can be spoken without rushing. But time cannot be created, only transferred. Each extension requires a sacrifice, a quiet exchange, a single grain of glowing sand removed from the timekeeper's own hourglass, a delicate vessel kept behind the loom, small and nearly invisible. At first, it felt inconsequential. A grain is nothing to someone who stands outside of years. But grains accumulate. The timekeeper does not notice the first dimming, or the second. They are too focused on the loom, too attentive to the constant tremble of need rising from below. The requests grow louder with each passing age. Please, not yet. Just a little more. The threads tighten with urgency. The clocks tick faster and sharper. The world below becomes a place of deadlines and demands, of running and reaching. The timekeeper moves quicker. Their fingers blur as they reweave minutes into hours. They skip the pauses they once took between adjustments. They no longer step out onto the balcony to watch galaxies bloom. They no longer rest against the cool glass walls and listen to the slow rhythm of untouched time. There's always another request, always another thread threatening to snap. The first crack appears not in the tower, but in them. Their hands tremble, a thread slips, tangling briefly before they correct it. A clock chimes too early, then steadies. They blink and realize they cannot remember the last moment they were still. Their own hourglass glows faintly now. Once radiant, it flickers like a candle near the end of its wick. They see it. They know. But knowing is not the same as stopping. If they pause, who will answer the pleas? If they rest, who will hold the loom steady? If they choose themselves, what might unravel? So they continue. They shorten their own tomorrows by seconds at a time. They shave pieces from their future and stitch them into the present of strangers. They silence the faint ache in their chest and call it duty. The tower grows colder. The ticking grows louder. Tick, tick, tick. One evening, though evening is only a feeling here, the sound becomes unbearable. It echoes through their bones, rattles the glass walls, vibrates through the threads of light. The timekeeper reaches for another trembling strand. Their hand does not respond. It hovers mid-air, fingers weak. The thread pulses urgently. Just one more hour, the world whispers. The timekeeper tries to move. Instead, their knees give way. They fold quietly onto the luminous floor. No shattering, no collapse of stars, just a soft surrender of weight. A clock drifts upward, unadjusted. They expect chaos. They expect the threads to snap, the loom to unravel, the sky to fracture. But nothing breaks. Somewhere below, the conversation ends when it was meant to. Somewhere, a storm arrives precisely on time. Somewhere, someone learns to let go because there were no extra minutes left to hold on to. The universe inhales, exhales, continues. The timekeeper lies still, staring at their dim hourglass. The glow inside it is thin now, not gone, but fragile. They could stand. They could reach up. They could keep going. They have always kept going. Feels heavier than any century they have carried. The ticking softens. For the first time in existence, a request goes unanswered. Silence settles like dust. The timekeeper places a trembling hand over their hourglass, and in a voice so faint, it barely stirs the air, they whisper, "I am tired." Not in anger, not in defeat, just truth. The loom does not collapse. The threads do not vanish. Time continues, steady, imperfect, whole, and the timekeeper remains seated on the floor of the tower, surrounded by unfinished seconds, finally allowing one moment to belong only to them. Burnout rarely announces itself with thunder. It doesn't always crash into your life with dramatic endings or visible breakdowns. More often, it slips in quietly. It dims your edges, it softens your excitement, it turns what once felt meaningful into something that feels heavy. Like the timekeeper, many of us do not collapse because we are incapable. We collapse because we do not stop. There is a belief woven deeply into our culture and often into our identities that rest must be earned, that exhaustion is proof of effort, that being needed is the same as being valuable. So we measure ourselves in output. How much did I finish? How many people did I help? How many hours did I give? And when we feel tired, we don't immediately respond with compassion. We respond with negotiation. Just get through this week. Just finish this project. Just one more thing. But time cannot be created, only redistributed. When you stay up late answering emails, you borrow from tomorrow's clarity. When you silence your own needs to avoid disappointing someone, you borrow from your emotional reserves. When you push through exhaustion because resting feels indulgent, you borrow from your body's trust in you. It is subtle, and because it is subtle, it feels justified. Burnout is not a sudden explosion. It is a long series of small withdrawals from yourself. And what makes it even more painful is this. Often you know you are tired. You feel it in the heaviness behind your eyes, in the way joy doesn't land the same, in the irritability that surprises you, in the numbness that replaces excitement. But instead of responding with care, you respond with pressure. You tell yourself you should be able to handle it. You remind yourself that others have it worse. You convince yourself that resting now would be irresponsible. So you keep adjusting the threads. You keep extending everyone else's minutes. You keep shaving seconds from your own future. Burnout becomes especially complicated when your identity is tied to being dependable. When you are the strong one, the capable one, the one who has it together. If you slow down, who are you? If you are not producing, who are you? The timekeeper believed the universe would unravel without them. Many of us believe something similar. We believe if we stop, everything will fall apart. But the quiet truth is this: the world continues. Deadlines shift, people adapt, conversations end naturally, storms arrive and pass. And sometimes the only thing unraveling is you. Rest is not weakness, it is preservation, it is maintenance, it is a return to balance. It is the refusal to keep stealing from yourself in order to meet endless demands. And maybe the most radical act of self-love is not a grand gesture or a perfect routine. Maybe it is simply sitting in the middle of your unfinished tasks and whispering, without apology, I am tired. Not as defeat, but as acknowledgement. Because you cannot heal what you refuse to name, and you cannot restore light you refuse to protect. Burnout is not a personal failure. It is a signal that you have been giving more than you have been receiving, a signal that your inner clock needs tending, a signal that your worth is not meant to be measured in how much of yourself you can sacrifice. The timekeeper did not fall because they were weak. They fell because they believed everything depended on them. And maybe the beginning of healing is realizing that you are allowed to rest, even if the world keeps turning. There is a version of burnout that doesn't look like falling apart. It looks like showing up. It looks like answering the call, meeting the deadline, smiling in the meeting, sending the text that says, "Of course, I've got it." You might be the dependable one, the friend who listens at midnight, the sibling who keeps the peace, the employee who never says no, the creative who turned passion into pressure. You may even say out loud, "I'm so burnt out." But then you laugh and keep going. Because the bills still need to be paid. Because people are counting on you. Because you don't want to be seen as unreliable. Because resting feels like falling behind. And here's where it becomes quiet collapse. You know you're tired. You feel it in your body, the heaviness when your alarm rings, the way weekends don't restore you anymore, the way small inconveniences feel enormous. You feel it emotionally, the shorter patience, the unexpected tears, the dullness where excitement used to live. You feel it mentally, the fog, the difficulty focusing, the way everything feels like too much. But instead of responding with rest, you respond with endurance. You tell yourself other people are handling more. You tell yourself, "I'm just being dramatic." You tell yourself, "I'll rest after this next thing." And there is always a next thing. Burnout becomes especially confusing when you're still functioning. You're not missing work, you're not canceling everything, you're not visibly breaking down. So you assume it's not bad enough. You assume you should be able to push through. But burnout doesn't always remove your ability to function. Sometimes it removes your ability to feel. It numbs joy, it dulls curiosity, it makes everything feel transactional. You begin living in survival mode, even if nothing catastrophic is happening. And perhaps the hardest part is this: you don't know how to rest without guilt. When you try to sit still, your mind races with everything you should be doing. When you decline something, you replay it in your head. When you take a day off, you spend half of it feeling behind. So even your rest is not restful. It becomes another performance, another task, another clock to manage. You might recognize yourself in the timekeeper, constantly adjusting, constantly extending, constantly making sure everyone else has enough. But who is adjusting your thread? Who is protecting your hourglass? Who is making sure you are not borrowing from a future that will eventually demand repayment? Burnout is not always about working too much. Sometimes it is about caring too much without replenishment, about striving too much without pause, about holding too much without being held. And because you are strong, because you are capable, people may not see the dimming. They may not notice the way your light has softened, but you feel it. You feel the quiet exhaustion of always being the steady one. And here is something important. Just because you are still standing doesn't mean you are not depleted. Just because you can keep going does not mean you should. The timekeeper believed everything depended on them. You may believe something similar, but the world has a way of continuing, and your well-being is not a luxury item you attend to after everything else is finished. It is the foundation. You are allowed to admit you are tired, even if no one else sees it. You are allowed to need restoration, even if you are still functioning. You are allowed to stop borrowing from yourself, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because quiet collapse is still collapse, and you deserve more than survival. If burnout is the quiet theft of your own hours, then healing begins with a small act of reclamation. Not dramatic life overhauls, not quitting everything, not disappearing from your responsibilities. Just small, deliberate interruptions in the pattern of self-sacrifice. The timekeeper did not restore their glow in a single moment. They did not rebuild the tower or silence every ticking clock. They did something much smaller. They stopped reaching. And maybe that is where you begin to. Not by fixing your entire life, but by leaving one thread untouched. There is a kind of courage required to rest when everything in you says, keep going. Especially when your identity has been shaped around reliability. Especially when you have been praised for endurance. So instead of asking you to rest perfectly, I want to offer something gentler. 1. Notice where you are borrowing from yourself most often. Is it sleep? Is it emotional energy? Is it saying yes when you mean no? Is it staying available long after you feel drained? Awareness is not judgment. It is information. 2. Practice micro rest. Micro rest is not vacation. It is a boundary measured in minutes. It might look like closing your laptop 5 minutes earlier than usual, letting a text sit until tomorrow, sitting in silence in your car before walking inside, choosing not to fill every empty space with noise. Your nervous system does not require grand gestures to begin calming down. It responds to consistency. 3. Expect resistance. When you stop overextending, discomfort may rise. Guilt might whisper you're being selfish. Anxiety might say you're falling behind. Fear might insist something will break. Let those voices speak, but do not automatically obey them. Burnout often conditions you to believe that constant motion equals safety. So when you slow down, your system interprets it as risk. But stillness is not danger. It is recalibration. 4. Redefine productivity. Rest is not the absence of productivity. It is what makes sustainable productivity possible. You are not meant to operate like a machine. You are not designed for endless output without renewal. Even the earth rotates through night and day. Even oceans retreat and return. You are cyclical, not constant. 5. Give language to your exhaustion. Say it plainly, even if only to yourself. I am tired. Not as a complaint, not as weakness, but as a signal. And then follow that statement with one act that honors it. If you are tired, go to bed earlier. If you are emotionally drained, cancel something non-essential. If you are mentally foggy, step outside and breathe without destination. You do not have to justify these acts. You do not have to earn them. You are not a timekeeper responsible for holding the universe together. You are a human being with limits, and limits are not flaws. They are guidance. Burnout recovery is not dramatic. It is repetitive. It is choosing again and again not to steal from yourself. It is allowing unfinished things to exist. It is trusting that the world can continue turning without you gripping every thread. And if all you can manage right now is one small pause, one moment where you do not reach, that is enough. Because healing does not begin with perfection. It begins with permission. If you can, let yourself settle for a moment. You don't need to change anything right now. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to make a plan. Just arrive here. Take a slow breath in and let it leave your body gently. Imagine the tower from the story. The glass walls, the floating threads of light, the endless ticking. Picture the timekeeper seated on the floor, no longer reaching. Now imagine that tower is your inner world. All the responsibilities suspended around you, all the expectations humming softly in the air, all the things you feel responsible for holding together. Notice how heavy it feels when you believe you must manage every thread. Now gently, without force, imagine placing your hands in your lap. Not gripping, not adjusting, not fixing, just resting. Feel what happens in your body when you allow that image. Maybe there's resistance. Maybe your chest tightens. Maybe your mind starts listing everything that still needs your attention. That's okay. You are not trying to silence your mind. You are only practicing not reacting to it. Take another breath. Imagine that somewhere behind you, almost hidden, is your own hourglass, your own inner clock. See its glow. Notice whether it feels bright or dim, steady or flickering. There is no judgment here, only awareness. Place one hand gently over your heart, if that feels comfortable, or simply imagine doing so. And quietly, whether aloud or inside your thoughts, say, I am tired. Let the words land without explanation. Not, I'm tired because, not, I'm tired but, just, I am tired. Notice what shifts when you allow the truth to exist without defense. Maybe there's sadness, maybe there's relief, maybe there's nothing at all. All of it is welcome. Now imagine something else. Imagine that when you stop reaching for every thread, the universe does not collapse. The clocks continue their steady rhythm. Some things move forward without your intervention. Some things resolve on their own. Some things remain unfinished, and that is okay. Feel the permission in that. You do not have to carry everything at once. You do not have to earn your right to sit still. You do not have to be the timekeeper of everyone else's peace. Take another slow breath. As you exhale, imagine a small amount of light returning to your hourglass. Not because you forced it, not because you solved everything, but because you paused. Rest is not a reward at the end of endurance. It is a rhythm. And right now, you are allowed to enter it. Let your shoulders soften, let your jaw unclench, let your breath lengthen. Even if this moment is brief, let it belong to you. You are not weak for feeling depleted. You are not failing for needing restoration. You are not selfish for wanting to stop borrowing from yourself. You are human, and humans are not meant to burn endlessly. Stay here for one more breath, and when you return to your day, carry this with you. You can always choose one thread not to hold, one moment not to manage, 1 second that belongs only to you. And that choice, however small, is the beginning of light returning. Before we close tonight, I want to share something personal. As I recorded this episode, I realized I wasn't just telling you a story. I was speaking to myself too. I have loved myself better than I once did. I have grown, I have learned, I have softened in places that used to be hard. But I still struggle with this. I still have trouble seeing rest as maintenance instead of a reward. I still manage more than I realistically have to. I still carry things that could probably survive without my constant attention. As a small business owner, as a stay-at-home mom, and right now as a military spouse holding down home while my husband is deployed, there is a quiet pressure to make sure everything stays steady, that nothing slips, that the threads don't tangle. Sometimes it feels like if I loosen my grip, everything might fall apart. And this episode, it's for me just as much as it is for you. Because no matter where we are in our journey to self-love, we are all still learning, still unlearning, still practicing. We are allowed to be growing and struggling at the same time. We are allowed to understand the lesson and still need the reminder. So if you're listening tonight and thinking, I know I'm tired, but I don't know how to stop, just know you're not alone in that. I'm learning too. And maybe that's what makes this space honest. And maybe that's what makes this space so important to me. Because like you, I am also learning, practicing, and still on my self-love journey. Thank you for being here with me tonight. Follow Moonlight in Moments wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, and as always, love yourself better than yesterday.
I held the sky with trembling hands. Thread by thread I made my stand, stretching sunsets thin as lace, giving time away in quiet grace. Every plea I heard it clear, just one more hour, keep us here. So I shaved tomorrow down, all the way without a sound, ticking louder in my chest. Silver glow turned faint at best. Still I told myself don't stop, even stars can overdrive. I've been living on borrowed light, turning my days into endless night, giving seconds I couldn't spare, burning slow in thin air. If I let one moment fall, will the sky still hold us all? Maybe I don't have to fight, maybe I can keep my light. Clocks were floating overhead, every wish and word unsaid. I stitched my future into now, never asking when or how. Strong enough to hold the same, strong enough to mute the scream. But strength can blur and start to break when you give more than you take. There it was, a quiet plea, echoing inside of me, not from earth or distant star, but from who I really am. I've been living on borrowed light, turning my days into endless night, and giving seconds I couldn't spare, breathing thin in air. If I let one moment be, will the world still carry me? Maybe I don't have to fight, maybe I can keep my light. I am tired, not undone, not defeated, just outrun. If the clocks can't tick alone, maybe I can set one down. Let the storm arrive on time, let the sunset draw its line. If I loosen just one thread, will I still be held instead? I am tired, and that is not a flaw. I am human, not a god at all. I won't live on borrowed light, I will rest without the fight. Let a minute pass untouched, let my own heart mean as much. If the is for.